Hey, you?
Hey, you. What's going on?
Okay. I tried to do a cool casual thing where I was like, "Oh, Em, I have something cool to say in the intro," and I've got so wigged out that now I'm feeling insecure about it.
Who
But
got wigged out? Me?
yeah, you were like, "Okay," and now I feel like I've stepped on your
Well,
toes.
no. The okay was you saying "ask why I drink," which was like that was the plan. But
I know,
so
but sometimes we get on a topic and then like spend 15 minutes, and I have like a big thing, so I want to get to it
oh,
before we
okay,
like go the wrong
uh,
direction. So
okay. Hang on.
this, oh,
Hey,
that's
Christine,
good.
why do you drink?
Oh, that's a great question, Em. Thank you so much for thinking of me. So we got this. I don't know if you've gotten this yet. I feel like you would have told me, but we got this package as a belated birthday gift, and I don't know how often you check your mail over there, but I finally checked my mail, and we got this amazing fucking birthday package. And it's from and that's why I drink secret gift group, of course, because they're always doing things. And they were like, they basically said, like, you two innocently say something, like, we want to, like, make it happen. And then they, like, actually do. So last year they made those tarot cards, remember? This
Oh yeah.
year, they made fucking cryptid trading cards. Like, you had said you
What?
wanted, like, remember we talked about baseball cards and, like, you were like, I wish there were,
Yeah.
like,
No, I
cryptid.
remember.
Yeah.
Oh my
So they're
gosh, what
called
do they look like?
Lemon Mascots League,
Oh my god.
and they have like another whole thing where each
Oh.
cryptid has its own like player quick facts, and it has the artist, their Instagram handle, and oh, sorry, my baby's in the camera going, "Mama, hold me."
Oh.
Mama, help. Hold on a second, sorry.
Is it a ghost?
No, she keeps saying, "Mama, help." Hold on. She probably dropped her passy.
Do you
Well,
go
I have
get
to
it?
send Blaze in. Mommy's working. Anyway, back to
working to
work.
working to pay for more passies just for you.
That's right. By the way, those things are like fucking socks. They disappear, and I'm like buying new ones every few weeks. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, but by the way, the first card in the pack. This is wild because you just covered this, and they would have no way of knowing. Baba Yaga,
Yo. Oh,
right?
that gave me chills. That
Isn't
was
that
so
I
wild.
turned the pack over and I was like, "That's the first card that appeared," and I opened it yesterday, and you had just covered it. Of course, the next one is fucking bagel bites. But there's so many cute ones. Like, they're just so talented and creative, and I can't wait for you to open yours so that we both can have a pack. Can we talk about this? This one has you on it. It says the Eugene Emeralds,
Oh, that's one of my
the
my minor leagues.
minor league team. Oh my god, the Fredericksburg Ever Napper. It's nap o'clock somewhere. It's M wearing a shirt that says it's nap o'clock somewhere. It's your own baseball card. I feel like I got to read the stats for that. Hold on one
Oh
second.
my god. Oh
That's
my
the
god,
most
that's so
important one.
cool. Wow. Oh my gosh. And so just like our tarot cards, which we were very lucky to get from them last time, it seems like every person gets to like pick a card to make, and then
Yes.
it
It's like
builds out
the
a whole
individual,
deck.
exactly. The individual artists like add. So the Evernapper was created by Darlene, she, her, and Darlene Blankenship is her Facebook. And it says player quick facts can be found napping in the dugout. Yeah, probably on
Yeah.
a fucking wooden bench, like laid out. Best friends with the Hercene shifter and hates lemons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where can this cryptid be found? Fredericksburg, Virginia, with recent spottings in Los Angeles. May I make an addendum that says Burbank High School campus?
Oh, please don't
I'm
say
just
I've
kidding.
been found on a high
No,
school campus.
I
You
didn't mean it like that.
fucking
I just meant,
creep.
let's just say Burbank. Let's just say Burbank. Is there a real team with this mascot? Not yet, is what it says.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, I don't actually. I thank you for telling me. I did not know that I could expect that anytime soon. But since I don't have anything to show on my end, I will quickly show the and that's why we tarot to people.
yes. Oh,
Uh,
also genius.
also
Um,
genius. Where
and
all
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say where all the tarot cards are the same situation. I this is an unopened one. I was lucky enough they gave us a few, and this is my display one, and so I haven't
Oh, I
even
love
opened it
that.
because if something ever happens to my other one, I have a backup.
You have a backup.
But
I know.
I love
I spilled a candle all over both of them, so that's where I'm at.
what?
Yeah, it's fine. It's just because the box is shiny, so I was able to scrape most of it off. But I was like, wow, I really am a mess. But then as I was opening my mail, this was in there.
What? Oh!
Look at this fucking oil portrait of Giovanni Bernard Schieffer Lampignali.
Wow.
I mean, this is by the Ravios Art. I hope I'm saying that right. Ravi, I think, sent it, and it is like stunning. And I've already took a
That's
bunch of photos of Gio and the portrait
oh
side by
my
side.
god.
And then just as like a little hat trick, so to speak, I've been in like a kick with my squishmallows. Like, I have Letitia Lemon squishmallow,
Mhm.
whom I love. And then my brother and I did a Beach Too Sandy episode where we read reviews of squishmallows. And I got just so invested. And so the other day I took an edible and I went shopping on the internet, which is just the most dangerous game I play. And I bought, oh, I forgot him downstairs. So I bought myself a little moth. And the problem was, his name is Barrett. And the problem was, it's a Canadian exclusive at only certain gas stations in Canada. And
What?
so that's the only place to find them. So I had to go on like Poshmark and spend like $30 on this tiny little thing. But I needed him. So he's downstairs in my bed. But I also bought myself this navy blue Bigfoot squishmallow named
Oh
Danny.
my
She's so
is
cute and I love her. It's like a comfort.
did you name her Danny or
No,
it came
that's
with the
just her
name?
name. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then I opened my mail yesterday, and this is a squishmallow that I said I had fallen in love with and always wanted. And somebody mailed it to me, a listener actually. And this is Avery, my mallard.
Uh, I'm very happy for you.
Thank you so
I
much.
I don't understand the allure of a squishmallow, but
Really?
I understand like what they feel like. They feel great, like they're like sensory wise.
Yes, they
But
do.
but I've never been a collector of like any like stuffed animals.
I just have such a, as you know, like a compulsion to anthropomorphize everything
Well,
and fall in love with it.
my thing is like I if I know there's like a wild amount of something that I could collect, then I'm either I think half the reason is I get overwhelmed very quickly that I'm like, oh, I can never collect all of them. And two, if I tried to collect all of them, I think I would start feeling really guilty
Would
halfway
like
through because
take over your life and money.
yeah, so like that's why I never got into like Funko Pops or anything like that because I knew early on that it was gonna be bad. So I
I
just
just like
never let
I
myself.
feel like I very specifically, I don't even want to collect them. I just like grow attached to very specific ones. So I have like my little characters that I love. And if you guys have not seen Avery the Mallard, I genuinely think it's the funniest squishmallow they've ever created. He has like these round eyes. He's so epic.
He
This is
does
another Canadian. They're all Canadian, these ones. I don't know.
he does look like he has seen how he's gonna die and when.
You're right. He's looked into a witch's eyes and had a really traumatic experience. Can I read his little bio? It says,
Yeah.
"Don't let Avery's size fool you. He is a skilled left wingman for the Mallows rugby team and one day wants to be a coach. His whole family comes to watch and they bring popsicles to celebrate once the game is over." It's like,
It's
what?
like they asked a 5-year-old what the bio should be,
That's
which I
it. I
appreciate.
think they might have. So, I just love them. And I was so excited because this arrived yesterday, my Bigfoot squish. My Barrett moth arrived yesterday. I have to bring him. I'll show him next episode because he is a delight. And then Avery arrived from fan mail, and I was like, "This is the best." I'm really having a
You're having a
midlife
day.
crisis. I don't know.
I don't think that's a midlife crisis.
Thank you.
There's no age on appreciating a good anything.
Look at us. And then Letitia's over there. So I got the whole gang. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. Anyway, and why do you drink besides my erratic compulsions?
Well, no, I appreciate your erratic compulsions because today I feel like I really threw everyone like
Oh gosh, you did not. I didn't realize you were actually feeling guilty about that. Please do not.
I felt bad because I thought we were recording a listener's episode, and so I was scrambling to do notes in time, but I only had like an hour or so to like make sure my notes look good enough for an episode. I feel like I went into a tizzy, and I feel like on the sidelines I put everyone else into a tizzy. So, which even if it's not true, my brain has decided that's what happened. So,
Well, I don't
just
know if it's
feel bad
better or
about it.
worse for me to tell you you're fine and it's all good and we didn't
Thank
even
you.
think twice about it. So I know that your brain's going to tell you whatever it's going to tell you, but if it needs a counterpoint, I'm here.
Oh, thank you. I do appreciate that. I will say my a good reason I drink um my let's find something. What's going on in my life? Uh oh, I found as you might recall, the escape room that I
Oh
made you
yeah.
forever ago. I apparently after you left, I just like shoved it all in the back of a closet and like but I recently have been going through my stuff and cleaning up that
Oh, like
closet.
the physical escape room. I thought you meant the online one.
No, no, no. The if you follow Patreon, you might have seen it a few years ago for Christine and Eva. I made them
I made like
an
I made
escape
like the
room.
most unhinged activity ever, and then I turned around and made it the most unhinged YouTube video of all time. So
It's a
we
great video.
really
I still watch it
it's
sometimes. It's
crazy town. Like even I screaming a fish. Like I will never forget that moment.
well,
Um
I turned my apartment into an escape room. And I it's a great video. If you're a part of Patreon, please go watch it. But I just found all of the like 15 treasure chests with like combination locks all super glued to them. Like I just found like a whole bunch of stuff, but it has I was trying to figure out
combination locks.
I was trying to figure out how to like reuse them, and so I feel like I'm about to have an artsy moment. Um like
Oh.
I found here's one. Oh, I don't know if I could show it to you. I remember I found like the like a I found out ways to like make magnet.
Yes, I was that was the one where I was so stupid. I was like, M needed to like break character and be like, use the fucking magnet, idiot. And I was like, okay.
So it's called Safety First. I think this is for babies. This is like a
It
baby
is. It's
lock.
I now I see them everywhere and I have them and I'm like, wow, I was really dumb back then. But yeah, it's like you
It was
use the magnet
pre-baby.
to
You didn't know.
unlock it. It was pre-baby,
But
yes.
so I like this was they had a Christine had to find this first, and then
Mhm.
there was a box that had an X marks a spot, and then you had to use this to unlock the box, and so it became a whole thing. But I recently found it again, and I'm like, ooh, how do I use this again in my life? I'm very excited. So I the reason I drink is I feel a creativity burst about to
I'm so
happen.
excited. That's honestly to me one of the best feelings when you get on that kick of like I have a project and I have a goal and something a vision, a creative vision. I love that feeling.
I love a vision.
Me too.
Well, anyway, that's why I drink. What are you drinking before we get into
Oh,
this?
you know what? This is gonna shock everyone. I'm drinking water. What
Whoa.
the fuck?
Wow.
Don't crash your car. I know that's startling, but I am drinking water for the first time ever on this show. So cheers.
Congratulations. In
Thank
a
you
big
so much.
Stanley.
In a Stanley, because apparently I'm a basic bitch, and I watched one TikTok 2 years ago and was like, I need that. What is wrong with
I
me?
is it the 40 ounce?
Mm, it's a big one.
I feel
It's the
like
one.
isn't the 40 ounce the big one?
I don't know. It's the one that's always on Teacher Talk.
I know. I was gonna make fun of you for being a teacher, but I didn't know if that was too niche. But
I just love
okay,
Teacher Talk,
glad to know.
and so I just sometimes end up there.
Well, speaking of teachers, I am apparently the child because I'm drinking juice boxes. I
Mm.
have
Sorry, I didn't ask. I
orange.
was busy hydrating.
I have orange lava burst and torrential tropical punch.
Oh,
So
yum. I like high C. I miss that stuff.
I love high C, and I've been recently making it useful with mocktails.
Oh,
So
that's fun.
yeah, I've been loving it.
Okay, I just went to a wedding, and this was the first time I'd seen this. And you know how they have like the couple each has like a cocktail, like his and hers cocktail, like
Hmm.
custom cocktail. So hers was like a mojito, and then his was a mocktail. And I was like, oh, that's great because he doesn't drink, I guess. So I was like, oh, that's so fun. His custom drink was a mocktail. And I was with a girl who just told me she was pregnant. And so I was like, oh my God, this is like the best wedding. She got all these like cute blueberry lemonades because she was like, I never get to have like a cocktail, a mocktail. out like a pretty drink. So she was very excited, and I was like, that's such a clever idea to have like a custom mocktail at your wedding.
That's so lovely.
Yeah, I was really into that. I mean, I
Man,
wasn't because I didn't want it, but I was into it for everyone else.
I wonder if you could spike it though. If you could have like
Oh,
the
for
mocktail
sure.
and just like add something to it.
I just put some vodka in there for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now that we know what we're drinking and why, reminder to stay hydrated and drink some water, everybody. This
Mhm.
is your weekly reminder. To
I can
drink
finally
something.
follow the rules. I'm so proud of myself.
And with that, we've got scary story. Well, that's I don't know how scary mine are. I feel like yours are definitely the scarier ones because they're more based in reality. But
A lot of
I've
people
got
can't listen to your house. Like, I feel like a lot of people are like too scared of the ghost stuff, which is
really.
yeah. People have
I
told
feel
me
like
that.
oh, interesting. I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of people only listen to your half.
I
I
don't
feel like
think so. I genuinely don't think so.
I feel like I mean I don't want there to be a poll out there. I'm not trying to like imply
No,
anything to
no. We
everybody.
don't want to know.
But I don't actually want to know. But I feel like we're part of the true crime podcast community. I feel like people really
Fair.
come for the true crime. And I feel like I'm just kind of like an additive if people want something else.
I feel like it's come for the true crime, stay for all the ghosts. But some people no, but that to be fair though, a lot of people do see our logo and are like, "Oh my god, Ouija board!" Like they come for the spooky stuff, you know.
maybe, but they see Ouija board covered in blood. You know.
Fair
We're,
point. Listen,
look,
I don't
we're
know.
peanut butter and jelly. Some people like peanut butter. Some people like jelly. I just think some people like jelly a little more than the peanut butter. That's all.
I like both together, so that's me being the people pleaser always.
That's very nice. Okay, well, for those who do listen to my half, hello. It's about to begin.
Hello, you're acting like nobody's ever listened to you talk before. Hello, I'm finally here.
Here is a biopic of John Darrell, who is now considered one of the most fraudulent exorcists of England.
Oh, this is a true crime.
Yeah. See, am I stepping on toes? Let's find out. So he was born, this guy's John Darrell, he was born in 1562.
Cool.
And he was born in England in it's a town in Nottinghamshire, which I know I'm saying in the most
so many
bastardized way.
syllables. Nottinghamshire. Nottinghamshire.
Do they say shire or shire?
Oh wait, Nottinghamshire.
Nottinghamshire.
Cheshire.
Like Hampshire, like New Hampshire?
New Hampshire?
Nottinghamshire.
No, maybe they say New Hampshire.
Wow, if they were listening before, they're not now. So
you had 6 ghost-loving people in England, and they've all left. So fucking hell, you're losing all our ghost-based listeners.
I like to think they have their own like nickname for a town like that with so many letters. Like, do they just call themselves like Nshire? NHS?
I doubt it because I feel like that's probably a really common ending for these towns. So you'd have to do something more like specific.
The Knot.
We're the naughty knots, you know?
Yeah. So that's where he was born in
Cool.
1562. And then
He would not have understood any word of what we just said, by the way. Like, if he traveled in time and, like, witnessed this conversation, like, most of the words, he probably wouldn't even understand what was happening. It's weird to think about.
That is weird. Wow. Well,
Like,
I'm going to actively
even when
try
I keep saying like, he'd be like, what are you? I don't know.
He would think we all have a tick.
That's true. We probably do.
He was born in 1562, and in 1579 he graduated from Queen's College, and he was planning to study law in London, but that did not work out. He was born in the midst of the Protestant Reformation when England was splitting from the Catholic Church, and he was an Anglican. And some Anglicans, including him, became Puritans because he thought that the Protestant Church was still too Catholic and wanted stricter reforms. So
what is wrong with those people? But okay, sure.
So he leaned toward Puritanism very, very hard, and loved how strict he was. That's excellent. And he gained a reputation as somewhat of an unofficial spiritual leader. But by 1586, there was already talks of either witchcraft or demonic possession going on. And there was a rumor that there was a girl in town named Catherine Wright, and she was possessed.
Oh, no.
Her neighbor recommended getting help from John because he, was a good, strict, pious man. And reminder, he does not have like any qualifications regarding demonic
Right.
possession.
He's not
But
gone to be a reverend, right? Like he's just
no,
part of the religion.
he's just strong with God. So they were like,
Gotcha.
he will do.
Okay, okay.
So John goes to Catherine's house to pray and expel the demons from her. But it did not work, can you believe it? Because he,
Ugh.
again, had no qualifications. His excuse was that the demons were just too powerful.
Oh,
And
sure.
he declares that the demons could not be acting alone. So now, again, completely off the handle, no qualifications to suggest this. He goes, oh, the demons, they're not acting alone. Obviously, there's a witch in town that's causing this.
Obviously, there's no other explanation.
So to help Catherine, John demands, I guess he's like, I'm still in this with you, but I don't know, a witch is at fault. He decides he's going to help Catherine and demands that she stays awake and fasts and prays up to three days at a time. So for 3 days, no food,
Oh,
no sleep, just praying.
oh,
During her fast, she allegedly accuses another woman of practicing witchcraft, and this woman's name is Margaret Roper.
okay.
Um, and I mean, keep in mind, again, she was sleep deprived, she was starving, she was losing her mind.
Uh,
So, out of desperation, probably, she just said Margaret Roper's name, which we've talked about it a million times. We are
yeah.
not the only people to think about this, but it is wild that just any name that came to someone's mind, they're now a victim of this too.
It could be someone you like, someone you know, your own parent, like it, especially if you're being tortured, which I'm not necessarily saying that's what's happening, but she's at least being coerced into
Yeah.
a very bad place.
hmm
Ugh.
Well, so she said Margaret Roper's name, and this was a time. This was, by the way, a time when there was only like bad magic currently that could be illegal. Like they still had some people practicing good magic, or
Oh, sure.
not everyone was burned at the stake for witchcraft. It was only if you were doing harm to others.
Okay. I
Um, it gets worse though. I'm in the future, but
was gonna
at
say,
this
yeah, look
point,
out, good
yeah,
witches.
at this point in time, it's just if it just
Hmm.
bad magic. Um, so apparently Margaret is the reason that Catherine is possessed, and Margaret must have sent the demons over. For what? We don't know. And John not only wanted to get rid of these demons in Catherine, but decided that the law needed to be involved.
Oy vey.
Of course. This is where I give everyone a very quick, fun history fact, which is that in 1562, which ironically I think is the year he was born. Yeah, look at that.
That sounds right.
1562. Queen Elizabeth I passed the Act Against Conjurations, Enchantments, and Witchcrafts.
Oy vey.
Uh, which this is where I also remind you when I worked at Chipotle, the recipe book was called like spells, potions, and incantations. And so conjurations, enchantments, and witchcraft sounds very similar.
They ripped that off from Chipotle.
They did. I don't know if that's like something that people aren't supposed to know, but the recipe book at Chipotle is
I
literally
didn't
called
know
that.
that.
At least the one at mine was. I don't know. For all I know, they just like slipped it in like the top
Your
of the
friend
binder.
just did it for fun.
But I've never seen another recipe book from Chipotle, so
really fun. I actually really like that.
thank you. I'll tell Chipotle.
Okay.
So Queen Elizabeth passed this act, and it was the predecessor to the Scottish Witchcraft Act of 1603, and it helped move witchcraft legislation from the church to the general courts. So it was making things a legal matter.
Mm.
And this act created a 2-strike system where the first time you're caught performing witchcraft, or at least at this time bad witchcraft, it was a felony that ended in a harsh
Ooh.
prison sentence. And
Oh
then the
my.
second time you get caught, you are put to death.
Oh Lord. Okay.
If the crime was bad enough, or if you had someone like pretty aggressively against you and had some sort of power or say in this, they would just skip the felony and you would just be put to death on the first strike.
Oh my god. Okay, that just seems like so unfair and
So,
I mean, why am I shocked? I don't know, but it's
Circumstantial, yeah.
yeah, or like what do you call it? When
Subjective.
subjective. It's so subjective.
So if it was bad enough to someone, you could just be put to death.
Great.
Knowing this, John the Puritan
Oh God.
made
Okay.
made a formal accusation against Margaret and attempted to have her prosecuted, but it failed at least. In
That's
fact,
good.
I don't know how she had her hands playing in this, but not only did they deny John to prosecute Margaret, but the courts dismissed John and even threatened to throw him in prison for false accusations.
Oh, wow. That you don't see that very often.
No, so I don't know how, like, maybe he accidentally went and told, like, Margaret's husband about this or something, and
Right. Yeah.
maybe someone she knows was involved with the courts, or maybe he was just, like, so obviously, like, a skis bag, and everyone
Maybe he
was
was
like,
no. Yeah, maybe they were like, "Oh, this fucking guy," you know.
but, like, how many times do you ever see, like, a town defend a woman from witchcraft accusations?
Literally never.
She must have been incredible. Like,
Yeah, I was gonna say he must have picked the wrong gal to go after.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, I'm sure other women are
I was gonna say
also
not that they
lovely,
weren't incredible.
but this woman had some sort of advantage. So,
Maybe it was
John
witchcraft. Like maybe it's a full circle. She was like,
that
"I'll
would
fucking
be
hex the shit out of you, asshole."
that would have been amazing if the only woman to get away was actually a witch and
Right?
bewitched the entire town to
Just
not know
saying.
otherwise.
Just saying.
So John decides to forget about Margaret, and he's like, okay, this is a dead end. But Catherine is still possessed,
Oh,
even if I think it's Margaret's fault,
too bad.
whatever. It's Catherine still possessed. So I obviously have to exorcise her. And this, I want to remind everyone,
Obviously.
he's already exorcised her and it didn't work. So this is now round 2 of him saying, I'm going to save her. This time, it did not fail, although I like to think that he probably just started telling everybody it was working, because God forbid he failed twice.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks, first time around, it did not work even a little bit. This time around, he expels 8 demons from her in 2 weeks.
Oh my God.
I think by doing the exact same steps as the last time. I can't imagine he has a lot of variety to him. So
His
I don't.
imagination doesn't seem to be like at the forefront of his personality.
No, he's like, this time it'll work. Just trust me, bro. Is the source.
Oh God. Hold my beer.
So then he skips town and lays low to avoid the magistrate, because that was the guy who told him, I'm going to, like,
Right.
You're in trouble if you do anything else about this. I will imprison you for false accusations.
Right.
So that freaked him out enough that after he handled Catherine's exorcism, he just, like, left town. He was like, I
Oh.
don't want to be near this guy. I don't want to get caught with anything.
See ya.
This, though, unfortunately cemented his reputation in town as an actual spiritual advisor, because he saved Catherine. And John was later ordained as a minister in another town.
Of course.
And eventually he would start telling his congregation that the devil was everywhere. And when he means everywhere, he doesn't just mean like, oh, the devil is with all of us and trying to, mess with our thoughts and cause us to sin. He meant like the physical devil is around and like walking around.
Just like hiding out.
Just peeking around every corner. Okay. I don't know who believed that or who didn't, but that was his pitch.
Okay, it's hard to disprove that, It's like, no, he's not. Well, you just can't. He just missed him.
He's just really stealthy, and no one has ever caught him.
Sneaky, that motherfucker. You'll never spot him, but I can.
Right, I was gonna say, but he obviously has
special relationship.
Had hangouts with this guy.
Yeah.
John didn't do another exorcism until the magistrate died, because now he was finally off his back. So now he's not scared anymore, and he's like, okay, great, I'm going to go back to exorcisms, and I'm going to go back to saving people.
Okay.
He finally settles in this town that has been shortened to the name Ashby, but I think it was called Ashby de la Zouch.
Ooh.
But it's been shortened to Ashby. And in 1596... this is when he really ramps it back up, and he's like, I am here to fix some possessed people. And 13-year-old Thomas Darling
What an
goes hunting.
adorable name, by the
Thomas
way.
Darling, it sounds like a fairy tale.
Oh, because
Like,
it is the name of the family in Peter Pan, right?
oh yeah. Yeah, you're
I
right. Wendy
think.
Darling. No, you're right. Thomas Darling, 13 years old, he goes hunting in the woods with his uncle one day. And apparently him and his uncle get separated at some point. And when they're reunited, the uncle says that Thomas is now starting to suffer from fits. Very vague.
Very.
But apparently by the time he gets home, he is vomiting, hallucinating. Apparently he's seizing. He
Oh,
says that he can see a green cat in his room that won't let him sleep. That's terrifying.
Oh.
He also sees angels in the window, calls Job from the Bible his brother, and he
Uh-oh.
starts speaking to God by saying, heaven opens, I must go thither. Not hither, thither.
Thither. Hither and thither.
Hither and thither. I see Christ, Jesus, my Savior. His
Uh-oh.
face shines like the sun in its strength. I will go salute him. And then he like starts clapping out of like excitement that he can see Jesus.
Ooh, this is not feeling good mental health wise.
Nope. Thomas's family thought he must be bewitched, which I love that like he's literally seeing God.
Right. It feels
and
like
this
it's
religious family isn't like
Yeah.
excited for him.
I was wondering that too. Like, I see Jesus. Like, wouldn't that be the thing you're like, oh, good. Phew.
It's like, oh, okay, so you're on the
Of all people
you're
you're gonna
going the
see.
right direction.
Yeah.
I guess the vomiting, seizing, and hallucinating was probably a lot. And
Sure.
I don't know anywhere in the Bible it says, "Oh, the green cat won't let me go to bed." So,
Poor thing. This is sad.
so his family is nervous for him, and they think he's bewitched, and they call a local doctor. The doctor, I don't know, like there's so many points in this story where I'm like, oh, they were doing the right thing because they call a local doctor and the doctor's like, he has an illness that's causing these symptoms, but there's nothing.
Jeez.
So like the town has protected a woman. The magistrate went after a preacher or a
I
pastor
love
for
these naughty
performing
naughties.
exorcisms. And then the doctor was like, he is not bewitched. He just has he has a sickness that needs to be looked at. He has a condition, but he's not
Oh.
being possessed.
I mean, that's good-ish. I don't feel good about the rest of your story, but it's good.
There's at least points that I usually don't
It's
get to
good
talk about.
Yeah, it's a little bit different than usual.
So the doctor's like, everyone like chillax. It's fine. he just like, we need to take him to a hospital. But Thomas goes, no, mama, which I'm assuming that's how he spoke. But he says,
Thither and
no, hither and thither, mama. I actually am indeed bewitched.
Oh no.
And for some reason, they listen to the 13-year-old boy and not the doctor. But Thomas tells his whole family he is bewitched. And this is why he's bewitched, Christine.
Uh-oh.
It's because when he was out in the woods, he got separated from his uncle. He runs into a witch. The witch is in a gray dress with 3 warts on her face. And as she walked by, he, say it with me, farted.
What? What? Double take?
She walks by, he crop dusts her, but I guess not because it's loud enough that she hears it.
Uh-oh.
And she's so offended that she says, with a mischief and fart with a bell, I will go to heaven and you will go to hell.
Oh, is that her little hex?
I was going to say, I was like, even if that wasn't a witch, she's still spoken rhymes, which I
Oh
love.
my.
And also, if you're a witch, you're not going to heaven, I thought. So, like, your rhyme didn't even make sense.
Yeah, you're lying, I think.
So this is just someone who likes to rhyme. I think she was just in the middle of, like, trying to, like, learn to, like, rap battle.
Rap? I was gonna say that.
I will say, the beginning of that rhyme, she did call him a slur, which I'm not going to use.
Oh.
So if you're wondering why it sounded offbeat, it's because I missed a little step there.
Oh,
but the
no.
fact that she says you have a fart like a bell, that's crazy. That's
So say it
ding!
again
Like-
without say it again because I misunderstood it, I think, because I didn't understand the So
Uh,
maybe can you say like blank where the slur goes?
yes. How do I give you a different definition for what it means?
Oh, I don't
Um,
know. I can't even begin to imagine what a slur was in the 1500s, to be honest.
so it wasn't a slur then, it's a slur now.
Oh, I
And it
see.
was the G word. Let me text it to you. No, I don't
Okay.
want to text that word either. What do I do?
Can you
Um,
can you text it but space out the letters so our NSA agent doesn't know what's going on?
that feels weird. It starts with a G and ends with a Y. It's not gay. It's
Oh, I got it.
uh
I got it. I got it. I got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. So like
you
a what you would call like a Romani person,
yes,
like an
yes,
offensive slur for somebody of that culture. Okay.
yes. How did you figure it out? You just
I typed in slurs that start with G.
oh, okay.
I
Um
don't recommend doing that, guys. I'm not proud of it. Like I'll be honest.
anyway, so a slur, and then I'm just gonna go beep as the
Okay.
slur. Okay, so this is what the witch said to Thomas after he like blasted ass. He goes, you hear bleep with a mischief and fart with a bell. I will go to heaven and you will go to hell.
Got it. Okay. 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 Okay.
Um, I don't know why she even picked that word for him, but okay.
Yeah. Kind of
Anyway,
random.
after this interaction, then he met up with his uncle and he had these fits. Um, but Thomas quickly gains fame from this possession and later becomes known as the Boy of Burton.
Okay.
John was called in to help, and he instructed Thomas to fast and pray for many days.
Oh,
So
for God's
he's
sake,
pulling
this
the same
guy.
stops out. He's like
Seriously.
not doing anything original, but it worked for Catherine, so it must work for him.
I mean, it must.
And like Catherine, after days of no sleep and no food, Thomas accuses a local woman of witchcraft.
Oh boy.
Go figure.
Go figure.
He accuses Alice Goodridge, and Alice was an easy target because her mom had also been accused before of witchcraft. So the
Ugh.
town had wondered before that maybe Alice is also involved in all
What is
this.
wrong with these people?
And also, he's a 13-year-old boy. He must have heard the name around the house or something, or
That's
maybe his
true.
own, like school friends or
They've
something.
been
Were like, "Have you heard about
gossiping or
Alice?"
something.
Yeah. So Alice was brought to Thomas's room. I don't know why. I guess just to see if the witch would be able to approach the
Ugh.
possessed. I don't know.
Like,
But
we'll see what would
Thomas,
happen.
yeah. Uh, and Thomas, just by looking at her, falls into fits.
Oh gosh, she
He
starts farting around. This motherfucker. I know what you're up to, little kid. I know. You're
Alice
trouble.
shows Alice shows up, and Thomas, I guess if she is the witch that caused these possessions in him, he, by looking at her, freaked out and started scratching her and attacking her and trying to make her bleed.
Ew.
Um, and she screams, "Take blood, enough, child. God help thee. Pray for thyself. Thy prayer can do me no good." Okay.
Okay. What does it mean?
I don't know because I don't speak Old English, man.
I was
Take
like, I thought I
take
got it, then
blood.
I didn't, then I did.
Take blood enough child. See, this is something that like maybe like if you're an English teacher out there, maybe just take a whole day where you like help children understand how to read this because
Yeah,
then
but
they
I
hit
feel like they
31.
did, and it was called
That
Shakespeare, and I still don't understand what the fuck
it
is
was
going
called the
on.
Canterbury Tales.
I mean, don't remind me of that. That's a very triggering phrase you just said. Grendel.
Pray
Now, how do you feel?
Grendel was rough. Beowulf was
No,
rougher.
it's rough.
Pray for thyself, thy prayer can do me no good. Okay, so pray for yourself because
Oh, you're right. Okay. Oh, wait, I do get it. So it's like,
thy
pray for
prayer.
yourself. Like, you're not gonna fix me. I don't need any fixing. You're the one who needs help. You're making me bleed over here.
If you are an English teacher and there is writing like this, you need to bring Christine in to translate. She just did a
To
great
the
job.
youths, I'll be like, it's lit the way you just. Me and my fucking Stanley. I'm gonna be like, hello, yo, I don't know. I literally can't even pretend like I know any cool words anymore. So
Uh,
sad. So tragic.
well, tragic. So Alice was arrested for what? Like
For
for
what?
I guess for witchcraft, but she was the one that was
She
attacked.
was like, yo, why are you making me bleed?
And so they interrogate her, and when they're interrogating her, the prosecutors find witch marks on her body. Which, yikes, because witch marks could mean, oh, they found like Thomas like scratched her up, and this is
True.
indications of like his possession. But historically, witch marks are when the courts make a woman undress so they can
Hmm.
find one blemish on her and claim that it is proof of her being a
I
witch.
just want all these men to get naked and be like, look at my fucking porcelain skin. Yeah, right. You fucking show your smooth, flawless skin, you idiot.
But like truly, like it could be a freckle, it could be
Like a
any,
freckle, like a skin tag. Like, I mean, what are you talking about?
and it's a sign that you're a witch. So basically, if you are not 100% perfect to their beauty standards, you're a witch. Are we
And even if
surprised?
you are, a little boy will scratch you and leave a scar, and now you are a fucking witch. So you can't win.
Exactly. You could be perfect, and then guess what? That must be witchcraft because nobody's
That's true
perfect.
too. Like, oh, she must be hiding them. You'd think
Fucking
if you were a
crazy.
witch, you could like get rid of your third nipple or like your skin tag or your
Right,
cellulite.
exactly. If I had the magic to make
Like if I
myself look
knew that
perfect, I
would be,
would.
yeah, if that would be a problem, and I knew like, oh, they're gonna find this scar and Sam a witch, I just hex that away? I don't
Like,
know.
did nobody even think like if there was a witch around here, they would hex all of us to not let us figure that out?
That gets me every time. I'm like, why do you feel like you, if it were witchcraft, that you'd be able to overpower her? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, why would you be able to outsmart a magical being?
Yes, because they're men, I guess, and they
Men
just
are
are
literally so fucking stupid. I'm
so
sorry.
fucking stupid. I don't know.
I'm sorry.
I don't
Not
know.
all
Just a theory.
men.
Just
Not
a
all men.
theory.
Just all the ones that burned women and also stood along and let men burn women.
Oh,
But whatever.
sick.
You know who wasn't? That goddamn magistrate who defended Margaret
Yeah,
Roper at the
he's
beginning
like,
of
wait
this
a
episode.
minute. If she were a witch,
Fine, you're right. Not all men. Just one from 1562, apparently. Okay. So,
all men except that magistrate guy.
yeah, may he rest in peace.
R.I.P.
So she was accused of witchcraft because,
Because why
I don't
not?
know, she had a birthmark. And then she was forced to confess and claim to have cursed Thomas in the woods after he rudely called her a witch.
Yeah, because she was tortured into it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
And
assuming.
Alice was
Okay.
sentenced to be executed, of course.
Of course.
But she died in prison first. So was that better or worse than what we were expecting? Thomas's family believes that John Darrell's guidance was instrumental in exorcising not just one demon from Thomas, but two. So,
wow.
and apparently the names of these demons were
Uh-huh.
Glass Up, and Rodolphus. Which, like,
Sorry.
where did
That's
those
my
names come from?
favorite demon ever, Rodolphus.
Rodolphus, imagine the Squishable.
Rodolphus, the red-nosed demon. I
Yeah,
love him.
exactly.
I am
But the
imagining the
darling,
squishable, and I'm gonna get it.
would it be
Squishmallow.
a mallard or like a
It'd be a
Maryland blue
it'd be a
crab?
fucking
Like,
demon. Maryland blue crab. What? That's so random.
okay, Squishable, if you're listening, we would like Rodolphus the Maryland blue crab, please.
Oh God, help me.
So it's thank God for John Darrell, says Thomas's family, because they helped relinquish Thomas from Glassop and Rodolphus. But the Darling family loudly credits John as Thomas's savior, and this helps him become much more of a renowned exorcist. Later, John was asked to help exorcise 7 other people. And by the way, all 7 of these people were possessed at the exact same time, apparently.
Wow, how convenient.
They all farted in the woods. It was crazy.
If 7 people fart in the woods, can you hear it? What's that?
I don't know if they could all hear it, but they're all possessed now.
You're all smelling it though.
Yeah, exactly. What if it was just one it was powerful enough it smelled like 7 people, and now everyone's afraid to
Oof.
like figure out who it was,
Point at the right the actual culprit, yeah.
So he exorcises all 7 of these people and apparently successfully saves 6 of them.
He's a busy
But
man. Uh-oh.
but he he couldn't save 30-year-old Jane because she was a Catholic. You know how
Oh,
that is. You know
shit.
how that
Trigger
is.
warning, M.
But by this time, John Darrell has risen to absolute fame because he's had a near success rate, unless you're a dirty Catholic, apparently. And in 1597, the town council reaches out to him to help with another guy, and this guy's name is William Summers. So John did not get involved at first with William Summers. He instead sent instructions to other ministers to handle it. But I
Mm.
guess they didn't know how to make William fast and pray quite like John could.
Nobody could.
So
Nobody can. He's the number
nobody
one.
could. Nobody could tell him don't eat like John could.
That's true.
Um,
I always say that about him.
so then the mayor calls John and begs for help. And he's
Oh,
like, you got to
God.
get in there. Nobody knows how to do this like you can. So William's possession was like one of the most exciting things to come out of this town in a while. And crowds were literally gathering at his house and looking into his windows to watch him have like full suffering events.
Oh my God. He's probably having like a legitimate medical event, like a seizure. And they were like, ah.
Yeah. And they're all just like fighting to have like the best seat by the window to like
It's
watch him.
disturbing.
People really just had to be so goddamn bored in the 1500s. I mean,
right?
like just accuse people of witchcraft just to see what will happen. Kill them for fun. Watch them have seizures and not actually call a
Like,
doctor.
spend many, many, many months perfecting like some ridiculous torture implement shaped like a wheel with like spokes. I mean, the amount of time they had on their hands to come up with this shit, like, deeply disturbing.
The crowds were, I mean, they were truly gathering, which is why I think the mayor was like, you need to fix this, John
Help.
Darrell, because it's becoming a frenzy over here. So John personally oversaw William's fasting and prayer until the fits ceased, which,
Okay.
like I said, no one can do it like him. And John first declared that he was cured, but it came with some bad news.
Uh-oh.
His fits and his possession, the cure was not permanent, and they would be back. And even worse news, William Summers' possession was not caused by anything he had done, but by the sinful nature of the townspeople.
Oh, no, it's all their fucking fault. All these
It's-
fucking audience members are now in trouble. Uh-oh.
And because of this, William would be possessed by the devil again in the near future, unless the townspeople changed their ways. What a manipulative way
It
to
is. It's kinda
prophesize to an entire town. It's like you're all at fault for this guy being possessed.
It's like kind of genius. And I feel like saying also like, oh, it's not a permanent fix is also genius. You know, he's like
Yeah.
building in future work for himself. He's like, I'll be back when I need another paycheck, I guess.
Exactly. And pretty much he says it's all your fault. Even if like you're all going to church all the time, it's your fault. And I guess because he was waiting for the fits to come back, which I wonder if like he had spoken to a doctor recently and he was like, "Oh, when people have seizures like maybe like or I don't know if it's
I was
seizures
wondering
or
that
a
same thing. Like
condition."
maybe he knew it would like be a recurrent thing, like a
Which
chronic
makes
thing.
it even sicker that like he
It
knew
totally.
that this could be a medical condition, and instead of telling a doctor, he was like, "I'm just gonna wait for the next time he has an episode."
Exactly.
And
I had that
then
same
I'll-
exact thought. Yeah.
So that, I guess, assuming that's what's going on here, he knew that he'd have to be back, and so he got a job in town, waiting around for William Summers to have another episode. He gets a job as a preacher in town, but none of the like residents want to go to his church because he just blamed all of them
Yeah,
for
wait
being.
a second. No shit. Like,
I wonder if he
he's
thought it
your
was going to go
enemy
the
now.
other way, though, of like, I can lead you to Christ and I can lead you away from being dirty sinners, you know?
He's like, but like he's gonna create the problem and then be like, but I'm the only one who can solve it. This guy,
Yeah.
he has a business
Classic.
mindset. Yeah,
Classic businessman, classic narcissist.
classic narcissist for sure.
So the townspeople are like not totally stoked that he's in town. However, William was possessed again, just like John predicted, and
Oh,
he had an
boy.
episode. But now people are not convinced. I think because there was already that seed of doubt after like being told that it was their fault
Aha.
that this. Like, I mean, even townspeople who like hadn't done any didn't even know this guy. It was their
Yeah.
fault. Whatever. So they were all kind of on the skeptical side now. And when William started having fits again, they all kind of started noticing things. Like the main one was that William, his episodes had bathroom breaks. Basically, Thomas never soiled himself in the middle of his fits, which was usually a symptom of a possessed person, where like they couldn't control
So he's
themselves.
like, hang on, I gotta pee real quick. And
So he would like have like episodes and then all of a sudden just like shift personality or shift behavior so he could get up and walk to the bathroom, go to the bathroom, come back, and then continue
my
his fit.
goodness.
Which, like, how did we not notice this before?
Yeah, nobody noticed that he had to pee half the time. This is very weird.
I feel like that's the power of, I don't know what the right word is, but it's interesting when you want to believe something so bad, you won't notice obvious things like that until all of a sudden you've woken up a little bit. But
Yeah.
yeah, they just
I guess
apparently
people
never noticed before.
people see what they want to see, you know?
Yeah. And they also did the classic pins in your hands and feet when you're unconscious to see if you respond test.
Classic.
The classic. And Thomas kept reacting. So he
Oh gosh.
obvious like you're not supposed to feel it if you're truly possessed, and he was
Right.
responding like he could feel it. And William accused various local women of witchcraft and being the cause of all of this. I wonder if he went from like the whole town to like just the women.
Just
we all
the
hate
women.
them. We just
I
hate
still
them,
need
right?
men in my congregation. I need
Yeah.
someone in my congregation.
But if we blame the women, that'd be easy because we're already blaming women for everything, right?
Easy.
So he tried to blame the women, but none of those accusations stuck either. So I wonder if all the husbands were like, I don't think so. And William ultimately confessed that he faked his entire possession. And it was because he was following John's instructions.
Oh, I was like, for what? Aha. Ding, ding, ding.
Interesting.
Motherfucker.
I mean, they did get like alone personal time where John was the only one in the room telling him what to do, you know? So, I wonder if John like just wanted to make a name for himself in another town after the last town he went to. I don't know what the deal was, but apparently they were in cahoots with each other.
Okay, so he found somebody willing to do his bidding in this new town. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And people called on the Archbishop of Canterbury Tales.
Hey, famously.
To launch an investigation on John because they were like, this is horseshit.
Yeah.
How would they say that in Old English, Christine?
This is Thither is horseshit. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. So they launched an investigation on him, and a chaplain named Samuel Harsnett was put on the case, and he hated household exorcisms. He did not trust them. So he is in charge of investigating John, which loving this.
Loving it.
And Samuel very quickly notices that all of John's cases have pretty much been children because they were easily impressionable, and he could just say whatever he wanted and control them.
So sick.
The power of authority and, so
sick.
So just a manipulative piece of shit that wanted his name out there, and he used kids to do it. It was declared all fraud. John goes to prison, but they offer him a condition where they say, we will release you if you don't meddle anymore with possessed people or the people you think are possessed.
That seems like an easy fucking deal to take, right? Okay.
Yep. and yet he full on refused, and he stayed in
No,
prison.
he's such an idiot.
His supporters, however, helped get him released and tried to help clear his name. And maybe for a second they were able to do that. But in 1599, Samuel Harsnett, the chaplain who was investigating him, he publishes this treaty that I don't know if it's a treaty, a law treaty. I think it's more just his own
just
book.
like a announcement, like a
press
release.
It feels more like a book given the title.
Okay.
So basically he publishes this thing unveiling the whole investigation. And the reason I say I hope it's a book is because you know how older books loved a long title.
Which is so wild. They had to hand write it. What? Wouldn't you make it as short as fucking possible? It's just what I can't, even with voice to text, I try to keep things short. and someone's writing for a robot's writing for me. But like back then, I just don't understand. But okay, I guess they like to hear themselves talk.
They certain would you like to know the title?
I would love to.
Would you like to guess how many words are in this title?
7.
Okay.
I'll start the tally as you go.
This is the title of Samuel Harsnett's personal publication. Ready?
Mhm.
A discovery of the fraudulent practices of John Darrell, Bachelor of Arts, in his proceedings concerning the pretended possession and dispossession of William Somers of Nottingham, of Thomas Darling, the boy of Burton and Caldwell, and of Catherine Wright at Mansfield and Whittington, and of his dealings with one Mary Coop at Nottingham, detecting in some sort the deceitful trade in these latter days of casting out devils.
I'm going to round up to 80 because I got halfway there. I got to 40 and then I was like, I'm never going to remember what number I'm on. I mean, holy shit, I've never heard anything like it.
And not only like that you have to write that with your hand, but also with like a quill. Like
Yeah,
there's
with
no
like ink.
every other letter you have to get more ink. That's horseshit.
Oh, what a pain. And then you spell one word wrong. You spell like Caldwell wrong. And you're like, motherfucker.
I
Like-
love that he had the odd like a discovery of the fraudulent practices of John Darrell, Bachelor of Arts. Like,
Yeah, well, why? I guess
Why-
because it makes it seem more important.
you
I
couldn't
don't
even write
know.
BA? Like, come on.
Yeah, right. Even we do that.
Oh man, it was
That's
just
crazy. I was really trying too, but I swear I got to 40 and was like, this is not going to happen for me.
the worst part is the title's so damn long. I don't even know if I understood what it was about. Like it was
certainly not.
I mean, I get it, like, if I sit here and read it, but just talking out loud about it, it was not processing, because that was too damn
No.
long.
I was trying
That was a whole quote.
It's not happening. No.
So, that was in 1599. Samuel Harsnett puts that out about John Darrell.
Okay.
And a year later, John claps back.
Oh, okay. How many words?
About the same.
Oh, no. Oh, he probably did one more just to flip him. By like 81 words. Take that.
So, this is the title of his publication. A detection of that sinful, shameful, lying, and ridiculous discourse of Samuel Harsnett, entitled A Discovery of the Fraudulent Practices of John Darrell, wherein is manifestly and apparently shewed in the eyes of the world, not only the unlikelihood, but the flat impossibility of the pretended counterfeiting of William Somers, Thomas Darling, Catherine Wright, and Mary Cooper, together with other 7 in Lancashire, and the supposed teaching of them by the said John Darrell.
I didn't even try to count that one. This
Who
is
would?
crazy. So now they're like having a feud.
Okay. Like, all you have to do is, like, whatever a reporter was back then, like, just put that sentence out. And, like, it tells you enough about the publication without you ever having to have actually published anything.
Yeah, I would
Like-
say so.
They could have both just said, I'm putting out a publication and it's about this, and then just left the title.
Like, and then we
And
all get it.
I feel like after reading that sentence, I'm like, I don't need to read the book. I already get it.
We
Right?
get
Like, I
it. We
what's
know this
happening.
is a pissing contest. Whatever.
Yeah. So then he publishes a second book, and it's called A True Narration of the Strange and Grievous Vexation by the Devil of 7 persons in Lancashire and William Somers of Nottingham. So it's shorter, but
These are exhausting.
so despite his attempts to justify all of his actions in these 2 pieces of literature, he was still, like, his reputation was ruined, and he moved out of England. But when he moved out of England, because remember, when he left prison, he wasn't going to leave if that meant he couldn't keep meddling.
Right.
So he moved away from England and kept getting into trouble. And he got caught for libel and false accusations again, and ultimately he has gone down in history as the most famous fraudulent exorcist in England. John
Holy shit. I mean, it's a nice redemption arc for witches, right? Like, at least I feel like a little bit vindicated about it.
Someone was trying at some point, even if it didn't last very long.
Yeah, like somebody had a little bit of sense, for
Mhm.
once, which is
Yeah.
a rarity in your witchcraft stories.
Love it.
What a tale, Em. Okay, well, I guess it's my turn, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I am going to tell you a story today. Let me pull this up. It is a fucked up one. What else is new? And it's one where Okay, so it takes place in Japan. So I feel like it might need, you don't need gargoyles, but I feel like you need to tell me if you're like, wait, explain
Okay.
something, you know.
Okay. Maybe I should bring them out anyway.
You're blurry.
Oh, hang on. Do you like this? Is that
I
helping?
love reading your palm.
Okay, for
You will
people who can
have,
read palms, what does this mean?
I think
Well,
we've
my
done this before and nobody fucking responded. Or
why is
maybe
my
they
camera
did.
being that way? Hello. It'll pop back. It'll come
Oh,
back.
yeah, I
Okay, there
trust.
you go.
Oh, you just got to compliment it.
Uh, I'll bring the gargoyles out just in case.
Okay, just in case. All right. So this is the story of Lucie Blackman, and I'll mention the documentary at the end. It's on Netflix, and it was really good and also troubling to watch in the middle of the night. So just be forewarned.
Oh, in the
So
middle of the night. Great. Okay.
yeah, so 21-year-old Lucie Blackman. She was the eldest of three children born to Tim Blackman and Jane Steer in England. So we're in England. I don't know what town, but we're in England.
If it was
When
Nottinghamshire, I'd
I
be
know,
blown
maybe it
away.
was. Maybe it was. When she was born, her father Tim said it transformed his life. This is just the classic. She had an energy that made people orbit her. She drew people in. She was like the light in
Light up a
people's
room.
lives.
Could
Light up
light
a
up the
room.
room.
She was the sort of person who had a kind word for everyone. She was fiercely independent, adventurous, and dreamed of traveling the world. So, when she grew up, she became a flight attendant for British Airways. She was like, this would be a great way to travel.
Good for
And
her.
I know, I was like, that's a kick-ass idea. And she was able to make her dreams come true. So in 2000, when Lucie was 21 years old, she decided to take a gap year and travel to Japan to live with her friend Louise Phillips. And she had always been interested in Japanese culture and was drawn to the country, so she jumped at the chance to experience it herself. Now, Lucie did not have a work visa, so she did what many young women like her did and started working as a hostess. Hostessing is not the same in this context in Japan as it is in the US, so I'll give a little
Oh.
bit of context here. She worked at a club called Casablanca in Roppongi, which is a part of Tokyo known at the time for its wealth and like excess lavish lifestyle. Business people, especially in finance, would come to Tokyo from all over the world, and many of them would go to Roppongi clubs to unwind, and they would spend wild amounts of money on drinks, on entertainment, etc. And a former hostess named Susie, who also worked at Casablanca and knew Lucie, described it as a small, unremarkable hostess club. And there's not really the equivalent in the West for what a hostess is, but it's pretty normal in Tokyo. Essentially, a hostess's job is to sit with visitors at the club, talk to them, make them feel welcome, and encourage them to spend more money on like top shelf liquor or, buy more food, buy more drinks. Like, there's nothing inherently sexual about it. It
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of like what an escort is, like, purely by definition of like, sort of being your companion. Does
Sure.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is what she did. And again, like, this is not inherently a sexual thing or like a sketchy thing. It's just a normal cultural part of being in this part of Japan. So in 2000, many independent women who loved traveling were drawn to a job like this as a hostess because you could meet so many different people. You could make really good money. And also, it was fun to just like sit and talk with all these different people from all over the world. And you could make friends with the other hostesses who were usually in a similar situation, like Lucie, who didn't have a work visa. So Susie knew hostesses who could make $50 US dollars an hour, and you'd also make bonuses if patrons bought like expensive alcohol and, upgraded to the top shelf stuff. So this was a pretty good gig. Like, you made pretty good
Yeah.
cash doing it.
Feels swanky.
It does, yeah. I think she only did it like 3 days a week and was able to make,
Okay,
a living
girl.
off that. I know. I was very impressed. So hostesses were also, this is what Susie, who was interviewed in the documentary and also worked with Lucie, described as the dodgiest part of the job, is that hostesses were sometimes encouraged to meet with club patrons outside of the club for dinner
Mm.
dates. And that's kind of
Okay.
a no-no, like, on the surface, because that's not what this job is. But the lines are getting blurry, right? So they basically had you meet with club patrons for dinner dates, and then they would eat together and then go to the club together. And Susie described it as the most dodgy part of the job, but she also said she never felt personally in danger. She
Okay.
said it could really be a simple, innocent job if you wanted it to be. So that is where Lucy was working. Unfortunately, on July 1st, 2000, Lucy went to her job as usual, but she never returned, just vanished.
Hmm.
On July 2nd, a random man, called her friend Louise that she was, there to live with, and told Louise that Lucy had joined a cult and would never return. Bye.
Oh, what? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Sharp turn.
Sharp turn. And Louise was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" But Lucy had not come home. So she was like, "Well, I have to call her family." So she calls Lucy's family back in England. And Tim, her father, remembers asking, "How do you know she's gone missing?" And Tim said, "I don't know. Lucy's very skeptical. She's a good head on her shoulders. Like, I can't imagine she just like ran off and joined a cult without talking to
You're
me or
right.
talking to her family. It just doesn't make sense." But her friends are like, "We have not seen her. She's not going to work. She's not answering the phone." So he knows something is wrong. Not necessarily that she's in a cult, but that she's at
Right.
least missing.
That's fair. But I do know, like, if someone called me that I didn't know and they said, "Oh, Christine just joined a cult and left." First of all, I would be a little worried because I'd be
Yeah.
like, "What
I
did
would
they
hope
bribe
so.
her with? What did they bribe her with that got her into that cult?" But
Yeah.
at the same time, I'd be like, if a person I don't know said this, I maybe it's because of our particular job. I don't know.
You're right.
I would immediately assume that person is the criminal and is like trying to like very badly
Totally.
cover up for themselves.
Totally. Like and what cult like calls you to be like, "Just checking in, you'll never see her again. Bye."
And
Like,
what
what?
cult calls themselves a cult? Like what like who would
True.
what cult would be like, "By the way, we're the cult. Lucy has
That
joined
is
us."
the best point that I've heard so far. Like, who calls himself what cult admits to being a cult outright? That's a great point, I
So
had not even thought of that.
stupid.
So
Anyway.
stupid. So you're onto it. Really stupid. So Tim is immediately concerned that his daughter is missing. And once this has gone reported, the news of her disappearance didn't really take off in Japan the way it might have taken off as like a big headline story in the West. It mainly spread among the foreign community, especially among women from Western countries, because of course they're hearing like someone just like you has vanished, you know? So police were pretty hesitant at first to consider foul play. It was kind of a sticky situation because people without work visas would sometimes skip town, quietly to avoid getting deported. And
Mm.
so they were like, well, she didn't have a work visa. She might have tried to avoid trouble by skipping town. A crime reporter from the US was assigned to Lucy's case because it involved a foreign woman. And he at first thought, "Oh, she's probably just gone on a trip or left town without telling
Sure.
anyone." So police spoke to Tim, Lucy's dad, to get a grasp on who Lucy was, her personality, and her habits. And it became pretty clear to them, like, this is not the type of person who's just bopping around without telling anybody. Like, she would have told her family if she was leaving the country. So Lucy's dad, Tim, immediately flew to Japan, and he took with him Lucy's younger sister, his other daughter, Sophie. So that is when the media starts to pick up the case because now her family is in Tokyo, like pushing
Looking for
for
her.
coverage and looking for her. As soon as they step off the plane, Tim is bombarded with cameras and microphones. He's very calm and collected. He's very good about being on camera. And he tells them that the last time he spoke with Lucy, she said Tokyo was a nice city and she was having a good time. Sort of like the most vague, like
It,
non-answer. Like
yeah, everything's okay. The last I heard everything was okay.
everything's fine, right? Exactly. She loves this wonderful place you call home. Okay, bye. Uh and looking back, Tim said, like, some people thought I just loved being in the limelight. And he's like, which I'm like, fuck you to whoever says that. Okay. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. But
Yeah.
he said in that position, the position he was in, a person doesn't worry about the cameras or stage fright. You just get on with it because you're trying to find your child. Like, you'll get in front of any camera if you think it's going to help.
Yeah.
So Tim met with the police to ask questions about the investigation, and he asked if they had checked security footage throughout the city. And CCTV at this point was pretty big in the UK, but definitely not in Japan. And I think my favorite part about this section, like this conversation he had with police, is that he said like, "Oh, have you reviewed the security footage?" And they're like, "We don't have security footage. That's a privacy violation." And he goes, "We back in London have security camera on every street corner, and they're all made in Japan. Like all these
Oh,
cameras. Like think
wait, that's
about
such a
it."
good point.
I know. I was like, "Wait a second." And he said,
Wait,
like, they're all made in
fascinating.
Japan, but you guys don't use them. And they're like, "Nope." So, I guess they just export them to
That's a
us.
fun fact. I don't think I would have even put that
It
together.
never occurred to me. And like, it's been almost 25 years since then, so things probably have changed, but at the time they were like, "Oh no, we don't do that." So, of course, this is like a letdown to Tim. And he said there were pretty immediately cultural differences. The police said this too. Like Japan is known as being a very, at least like the trope or like the stereotype is that they're very polite, very straight-laced, very just kind and gentle people, like as far as
Mhm.
manners go. And this guy, his daughter's missing. He's coming in, he's kind of
He's
brash. He's like,
frantic.
give me
Yeah.
that. He's frantic, he's emotional, and he's like, there was immediately like a cultural clash, but they were always really polite to him. But a man did approach him and warned Tim, like, listen, it's going to be really hard to get a thorough investigation. Lucie's not a Japanese citizen. The police are probably not pursuing her case very strongly. And so Tim was like, you know what? I don't care anymore. I have to get the media's attention like I would back home or like I would in the
Yeah.
States. So he does a press conference. He does this in Tokyo, and he's trying to raise awareness of Lucie's case to the public. And this was like a hugely attended press conference. Lucie's sister Sophie talked to the press, asking people to step up with any information they had that could bring her sister home. And 30,000 missing posters went up around Tokyo.
Oh my
Police
gosh.
and Tim walked around with flyers, canvassing passersby in the street for information. They are going like grassroots now because he's not convinced the police are going to take this seriously.
Good for him. Damn.
I know. He's like hardcore. So back in the UK, the media is all over this case. British media began running speculative headlines. And like, I know this is a stereotype I have, but I feel like when you hear like British tabloid, you just think of the most outrageous speculation and theories. And that's at least how my mind works. Just think of those tabloids.
I feel like when I think of British tabloids, again, this is another stereotype is that I
Yeah.
feel like I hear it in like old English, which I know is not accurate, but
What?
I hear it like an old-timey tabloid,
Hither and thither.
hither and thither. And I
Like
don't know
extra,
why.
extra, read all about it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why. I wonder if it's because I just know that England's older than the US or something. I don't
Maybe.
know. I have no
Maybe you
idea
just think
why.
they're classier than us. I think of the trashy shit, like the really trashy, upsetting headlines they put out about like women's looks and weight and the royals. Like there's just some fucked up stuff
That's
I've seen
interesting
them in.
because I see it. I think of them as like overly like traditional posh, like old
Oh
English.
no. Like,
Interesting.
I mean,
Different tropes.
yeah, I guess so. True point. They are different tropes. So essentially, these tabloids begin running these crazy headlines, um, saying like, "Oh, Lucy was trafficked in a sex ring because she's a white woman, and they prize white women." Like, just very stereotypical racist shit,
Mhm.
about why she disappeared in Japan. Saying like, "Oh, she was kidnapped by a Japanese religious cult." Like, they're just making shit up, and people are eating it up.
At least
In the
people's eyes are on it. I don't
I
know
mean,
if it's good or
yeah.
bad. I don't know.
Unfortunately, like, it's not helpful back in the UK because, like, they want people in Japan to pay attention, but not but people in the UK are just eating it up like gossip,
Right.
So
Right.
it's a little iffy. But in the end, maybe you're right. Like maybe it was good that the media at least took it so far because the police in Tokyo did launch a huge investigation, and there were now roughly 100 personnel involved, which is far larger than any case for a missing Japanese citizen would usually receive. So I don't know if that was a result of the media, if it was because she was white. I don't know what caused it, but it did take off.
Okay.
So investigators honed in on Roppongi, where the Casablanca club was located, but they just kept like not finding any solid leads. And Tim was getting increasingly frustrated with the police, who were giving him absolutely zero updates. Like, they would just say, "Oh, we'll let you know." And he's like, "I need something. Like, I need anything. You need to tell
I
me
I wouldn't
something."
I wouldn't even be able to. I mean, no case would I be able to handle, like, wondering about someone I love, but to just keep getting hit with the we'll let you know when you're
Ugh.
just like you can't sleep, you
That's
can't
hard
eat,
enough
you
when
can't
you're like,
think.
exactly, when you're waiting on like a job or like I don't know
Like,
what,
we'll
like
let you
a,
know if the person you love the most in this world is alive or not. We'll let you know.
exactly,
Like, what?
eventually.
Hurry
And
up. Like,
and I like, it's, I know, and it must be so hard because there's also that back and forth where like the police are like, "Well, we have to follow our procedures," but also there's this guy being like frazzled beyond anyone's wildest
but
imagination trying to
also
figure out, "Where's my fucking daughter?"
with the type of stories you've told though, I would even if I ever had to go through this in my life though, I would now be paranoid that like what if they're not following procedures and they just don't care? Like what if they just don't care?
Yeah, I feel like that is such, especially if they're not telling you anything, then you're like, "Well, maybe they don't care. Maybe they just don't give a shit."
And maybe
It's
they
it
totally care, but I'll still read it as like
Yeah,
if you cared, you'd be working harder and then I'd have answers faster,
and you'd
which
have
is like
answers. It's like
just
a lose-lose
the
situation.
desperation of it all.
Exactly. And part of the reason actually that they withheld information from him is because he was constantly on TV and he was
Mm.
trying to get this case, and they were so worried that he would like slip up and say something sensitive, like something that investigators didn't want leaked, you know? And so they were also trying to tread carefully, being like, "We don't want to tell you everything because we don't want you to blast it out to the media," you know? So
Yeah.
there's kind of a push and pull there. But now 2 weeks have gone by since her disappearance. Tim is still in Japan and he feels the attention on Lucy slipping away. So he keeps making these TV appearances. He's trying desperately to keep it in the headlines. So, while visiting Japan, Tony Blair, the UK Prime Minister at the time, ended up stopping in Tokyo to do a press conference and speak to police about Lucy's case. And he actually even met with the Japanese Prime Minister, who promised that they would catch Lucy's abductor. And this was like blasted out to the media, but the police are like, "You can't promise that. Like, we don't, like," So I imagine they're fucking frustrated too, because like the prime minister's like, "We'll catch him," and the police are like, "What do you mean we? Like, you're not doing jack shit, you know? It's like you're making
But
promises that we can't necessarily keep." Oh,
for the sensationalism of it though, it's like, "Oh, okay, now we're getting aggressive. Okay."
I mean, it's true, and also it did push them into action because they were like, there was so much fucking pressure from the media, you know, and from now the prime minister, who's now promised Tony
Wow.
Blair, like, "We're on it," you know? So there's just a lot of chaotic energy happening around this case. So the detectives, like, just to give you an example of how they were feeling, one of them said, "It was easy for him to say that, but that didn't mean it was easy for us to do." Because I feel
Right.
like it's a tough thing to just throw that out there and then, like, go home and let the police handle it. It's not really fair. So, with the prime minister and the whole world now like putting pressure on them, new detectives are assigned to the case. And one officer referred to these detectives as soft shell turtles because once they bite a lead, they never let go, which is apparently
Oh,
something soft shell turtles do.
I've never is it an insult? Is it a compliment? Is it
Yeah, that's the best part.
it's a fun
Nobody knows.
fact? I've never the soft shell that's like me talking about that stupid fucking Maryland blue crab. I feel like we're
Oh my
covering
God,
a
you're
lot of
right.
a lot of animals today, a lot of vague
Yeah.
animals.
Yeah, we're
Soft
getting
shell
some
turtle.
weird ideas for squishable, you know, squishmallow. So yeah, they basically said like, I think it was meant almost as an insult, but like as like a polite insult, which again, this is striking me as a very Japanese trope of like, yeah, well, this
You
is how
remind me
you're
of this
acting like a
animal.
turtle.
Yeah.
So
The turtle is
take
like
that.
the turtle's like the nicest thing to be like
Yeah,
compared to in an angry state.
I would say I would be like, oh, thank you. I would be taken aback. I'd be like, oh, wow. So the new action team decided to start from square one. They spent nights poring over past investigation notes to see if anything had been missed or skipped over, or, you know, if they could just basically like how people nowadays go over cold cases, like just going through all the old notes of the investigators from before. And that is when they notice a note in here. And it was actually, they had talked to a club manager who said one of his hostesses had been drugged and possibly raped by a client.
Holy shit.
And apparently, this club manager described this to police, saying, "Yeah, apparently this guy, he invited one of my hostesses on a drive to the seaside, and she woke up hours later with a pounding headache and had no memory of the day, and she thought she was drugged." But the original detectives got this information, but then were like, "I don't know, this manager seems unreliable," so they just like
What?
got rid of it, like just put it aside.
Oh,
And
man.
the new detectives are like, "What the fuck? Like, this is a big lead. We're gonna follow
Yeah.
up with this club manager." So they do, and they find out that many hostesses had the exact same fucking story. But they hadn't reported this to police because a lot of them didn't have visas, or, they were the ones who were gonna
Oh.
get arrested or in trouble. I mean, this is like, we've seen this
Mhm.
time and time again in the US too. And they didn't want to be deported, especially if they didn't have anywhere else to go. And so, with more encouragement, several hostesses bravely came forward and agreed to go on record with their experiences, which must have
Wow.
been just very, very traumatizing. And they all told the same fucking story, that this man with an expensive car invited them to dinner by the ocean, and they were all drugged and they didn't know what happened.
Wow, so all the exact same story.
Exact same story. So now police realize there has been a predator in Roppongi for years, targeting women in vulnerable legal positions who he knew couldn't make a report or would be uncomfortable doing so.
Interesting, okay.
So at this point, Lucy has been missing for 52 fucking days, and Tim is like,
Days? Oh my god.
days.
Oh
Yes,
my god.
52 days. And he is beginning to feel so powerless. He's like, "I don't know how to keep this in the media." So what he does is he does another press release, and he offers 1.5 million yen, which is about $10,000,
Wow.
reward for information leading to Lucy. So, you know, stories are picking up again, and 10 more days go by. And it's about this time Lucy's mom, Jane, and Lucy's brother, Rupert, publicly release, I think it was 1,200 balloons into the sky to celebrate Lucy's 22nd birthday.
Oh my god,
It's
that's
just
so
so
sad.
fucking sad. And every time I heard it, I was like, that is so young. Like, 22 is so little.
Yeah.
It's just horrifying. So she said she wanted them to be a message to Lucy wherever she is. We haven't forgotten her. But more and more weeks go by before another major break comes through in the case. An Australian woman named Jessie reaches out to police and says she has the name and phone number of this fucking suspect.
Wow, okay, that's some red hot info.
Red hot info. She said, "I too was his victim, and I had written his name down and his phone number down in a notebook. And this notebook is back at home in Australia." So police call her dad and are like, "FedEx that shit right now." So they, like, overnight, I'm assuming, express ship this journal to Tokyo police from Australia. And they are able to open it up and look at where she wrote the name and phone number. And apparently, she had been so angry about this incident, obviously, that she had like scribbled out the name and phone number. But they were able to hold it up like to a window to the light and
Oh,
make
thank
out.
god.
Yes, I know, because that would have
I
been
was I
so
was
devastating.
I was really holding it in. I was like, please, please, please.
That would be such a Christine move of me. Like, we overnighted it. We got the information. Just kidding. No.
Yeah, it's ripped out of anger.
Right out. So thankfully they were able to still read it. And his name on the paper was Yuji Honda, which they believed was an alias. But the phone number, they looked that up and it was still active and registered to the same person. So they pull these phone records and they find out that one of the numbers this phone number had called was Lucy. So they're like, this must be the same fucking guy. She
Ding
at
ding
least
ding.
knew this guy. So they used the phone to triangulate his location. And obviously, they didn't have Find My Phone back in 2000, but they were able to use like cell phone towers, like we've seen in those
Yeah.
crime shows,
Yeah.
to pinpoint where he would be. And they found out that he most likely lived in a place called Akasaka Tower, which was an expensive apartment building in Tokyo where very wealthy people lived. It was known for being very shishi, as M would say.
Mhm.
So the apartment manager said, "Oh, well, there's two rooms on the sixth floor being rented by this weird guy." And they're like, Okay, well, that sounds
Okay.
right down our alley. Let's look into him.
It's like, how
Um,
convenient. We're looking for a weird guy.
a weird
So,
guy. Yes, precisely. So this apartment manager said, yeah, he works for a business called P. Ohira, and they had never heard of it. And then the manager said, oh, by the way, he has a bunch of fancy cars. So they
oh.
go down to the garage and take a look at like it's all like Porsches, Lamborghinis, Mercedes, and they're looking at all these cars, and apparently the cars he owned were matched up exactly to all the ones the victims had said he drove them in. So they'd said, oh, he picked me up in a Lamborghini and drove me here. And then the other one said, oh, he picked me up in a Porsche and drove me here. And police were like, oh, he owns all those cars. So this is the same fucking guy. He just owns multiple cars.
Amazing. Okay.
Yes. So they're on it. They unfortunately did not have enough evidence for a warrant yet, but pretty
What?
soon, I know, I know.
That's not how it works in my mind. Get in there, you know?
Hop on in, take some fingerprints. I don't know. But yeah, they did not quite have enough evidence for a warrant until another woman. I just feel like this is such like a strong women centric episode. Another woman comes forward. Her name is Monica. She's from England. And 3 years earlier in 1997, she had met with who she thought was the same man. And he had driven her to a resort apartment with a view of the ocean, half an hour from Tokyo, with palm trees. And the investigators were like, that's this fucking
Oh my
apartment building.
gosh.
No doubt. She had also been drugged, so when police went with her to the resort, she recognized it, but she couldn't quite remember which building it was, which floor it was. She couldn't remember the details. So they are walking around trying to canvass people in the area, and they show a photo of Lucy to a waitress at a restaurant at this apartment building. And this woman's like, oh, I recognize her. She was here on July 1st. That was literally the day she went missing. And they said, "Was she alone?" And the waitress said, "Nope, she was with a man." So they're like,
Yep.
"Fuck,
That'll
that's
do it.
that's our guy." So detectives got a list of names of all the people living at the resort to go through one by one, but their suspect's name wasn't there, and they were like, "He gave an alias, so how on earth do we figure out which one of these people it is?" Well, they find the residents with multiple expensive luxury cars and narrow down their search. A listing came up for P. Ohira, which turns out to not be a business at all. It was actually a name. And the Japanese kanji, which, by the way, kanji, I don't know if you know this. I had to look it up. Do you know what kanji is?
Is this type of food?
Nope. I mean, I know a restaurant called that, but
Oh, okay.
traditionally, kanji means it's a system of Japanese writing using Chinese characters. So
Oh,
it's like
okay.
a form of the written word, and so the Japanese kanji for P. Ohira could also be read as Obara, and they're able to put all this together and realize this guy's name is Joji Obara. And when they're looking him up on his record, they discovered he had been arrested before for sneaking into women's restrooms and taking photos of women as they used the bathroom.
Ooh.
What the fuck?
Ooh.
So a mugshot was faxed to them. It was pretty low quality, but they put it amongst 99 other photos. So there were 100 photos. They showed them to Jesse and Monica. Jesse's the Australian victim, and Monica's the English one. And immediately they're like, "That's him right there." And apparently
Ding,
they
ding,
fucking
ding.
recognized him immediately. And the weird part too was that like in the photo, his eyes are like closed and he's like looking down because apparently when they tried to take his mugshot, he kept turning around. And they're
Mm.
like, "Fucking stand there and let us take your mugshot." And he like wouldn't let them. So weird, like such a fucking
It's
child.
like he knew or something. Like he or
Yeah, he's like, "I don't want my face out there," you know.
mm.
So it's just a sicko. So detectives couldn't quite link him strongly to Lucy yet. It was just that witness who had seen them together and then the phone records. But they decided to at least arrest him for the rape allegations from the other women. They move in on his apartment at 6 a.m., and Lucy at this point has been missing for 103 days.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god. At this point, I would have assumed that she's not here anymore.
Yeah, I mentioned this later, but her dad said up until the very end, he was holding on to hope that she was still alive, which is just so fucking horrible when cases like this don't get solved, and people just live with that constant like threat of hope.
Like, no closure, nothing.
Yeah, and your brain is like, "Oh, I think the worst has happened," but you want to believe that like they could come back. It's just horrible. It's horrible. So it's been 103 days, and this guy was known for walking out the door a little before 7 a.m. to go pick up a newspaper. So they waited outside, and a little before 7, he walked out and they arrested him. He went calmly with them, surrendered immediately, and they were able to obtain some more information about this guy. So apparently, Obara was a property mogul who inherited a lot of money from his father. He owned multiple properties, and of course, the police are like, "All right, give us the fucking keys. We're searching them."
Mhm.
So, this is very upsetting. So they go through his properties, and they are finding all sorts of weird shit. They find notebooks where he is writing these strange entries about how has decided to become evil, and
What?
he's decided to devote his life to evil acts. Uh
What in the
just
world?
so disturbing. Then they
Ew, okay.
discovered a series of VHS tapes.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And I mean massive trigger warning here, folks. Like this is really hard stuff. So they find all these VHS tapes that are labeled with women's names.
Oh. Oh, and he was drugging them.
Yep.
So, okay.
They find 400 of these tapes.
Oh my god. Wow, that took my breath away.
400.
400.
Obara had drugged and raped hundreds of women, and he had recorded all of it. So they're going through these, and of course, are looking for Lucie or any familiar names. They do not find one of Lucie.
Okay.
Investigators now had to go through and watch the tapes one by one.
Okay.
They were trying to identify as many of the women as possible and ask if they would go on record as well about what happened to them.
Mm.
Obara insisted it was all consensual. Please. And apparently,
Without question, that's not true.
no, without question. And one detective even said, I was dealing with a person who had an extremely warped view of reality.
Mhm.
So, of course, when women from these tapes were contacted, a lot of them didn't even know they had been raped. They knew something scary had happened. They knew potentially that they were drugged, or maybe they didn't even know they were drugged and they thought they had eaten something bad. But essentially, it was very, very traumatic for them to have to watch videos of themselves in this
Mhm.
position and, you know, talk about what had happened or identify themselves in the videos. And several of the women said that's not me. Like they just couldn't face
Couldn't
that,
accept
which
it. Yeah.
I don't blame them for a second. It's like you're just living your day and the police are like, "Hey, come watch this." I mean, it must just be so mind warping, I don't know, to like see that video and not have memory of it, and it's very traumatizing.
Mm.
So many of them did identify themselves in the videos, and this really helped to build a case against Obara, thank God. Several detectives actually had to leave the team because they were too upset by the content of the tapes. Like they were watching the tapes and they were too traumatized and couldn't continue.
Mm.
Um, in the videos, the women's faces were often draped with a cloth, and they realized he was soaking this cloth in chloroform and then laying it on their faces
Oh my
and keeping
god.
them unconscious.
Oh my god.
One
The
detective noticed a woman's hand twitching violently despite her being unconscious, and he recognized this twitching as a symptom of chloroform poisoning.
Holy shit. Oh my god.
So he pursues this further. He's like, I got to find out who this woman is and see what happened. So he finds out this is Clarita Ridgway. And in 1992, she had been living in Tokyo working as a hostess while her sister taught English. But one day, she disappeared. Then a man dropped her off at the hospital saying she had food poisoning and then just like fucking piecing out. And after a few days, she went into organ failure and she died.
Oh my god.
And
Oh
there was
my
no
god.
autopsy performed, no investigation because hospital staff thought she genuinely had food poisoning. But they did keep a sample of her liver. And so now in 2000, several years later, they're able to find traces of chloroform in her liver from all the way back then.
Holy shit.
So they are officially indicting Obara now for abduction and manslaughter on behalf of Clarita. But still, they are like not finding information on Lucy. She's not on any of the tapes, which my guess is that he saw all this in the media and was like, well, I'll get rid of those tapes.
Oh, yeah,
Nobody needs to
definitely.
see those. And Obara was insisting he had nothing to do with her disappearance. But he did admit that he had met her the week before she disappeared. So they're
Of
like,
course.
likely story. Obara was apparently a collector who had a hard time throwing things away, and detectives were able to use this to their advantage because he kept receipts from everything. So they were
Mm.
able to like construct an entire timeline of all of his days all the way back to July 1st. And they found out on July 1st that at 3 p.m. he met with Lucy and they went to the usual ocean resort where he always took his victims.
Yep.
They had lunch and then at 5 p.m. they returned to his apartment. And that was the
Damn.
last time Lucy was ever seen alive. So late at night on July 2nd, he drove back to Tokyo. And on July 4th, he bought a chainsaw, cement, and a tent, like a portable tent.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Then he went to another apartment, and a neighbor that night made a noise complaint coming from that apartment. So, unfortunately, detectives were forced to make the conclusion that he had taken this saw and dismembered Lucy's body
Mhm.
in one of his apartments and then had abandoned her remains somewhere. But all they have is circumstantial evidence, like a receipt saying he bought a saw, you know. So
Right.
they're trying to find real proof that Lucy has been killed. And so they begin digging around his apartment, searching the water near the beach. And of course, the apartment management does not like that there's a murder investigation going on at their building, especially because it's like a high, high class establishment. So they keep pressuring police to hurry up. And so once again, police are like rushing and trying to figure out what they can find. And 223 days since Lucy disappeared,
Mm.
they made a discovery.
Ooh.
One of the detectives was walking along the coast from the apartment and came across a cave. He stepped inside, having a gut feeling that something was amiss, and he saw carnivorous bugs.
Carnivorous
Uh,
bugs?
yeah, like as in maggots.
Oh, I
And
see.
he's basically like, that means
Mhm.
something has died. And so he begins digging in the sand until he finds the edge of a portable tent. And inside the tent, they found Lucy's body.
Oh my god. And how did they figure out about this cave? He just stumbled upon it?
Literally, they're just canvassing the whole beach area by where he lives, by his apartment
Wild.
building. Yeah. And it took a long time. They canvassed the water, they looked all over the place, but this one detective happened to stumble upon this cave and noticed the bug activity. So one of the reporters who had gotten pretty close to Lucy's dad, Tim, during the investigation, called him to let him know police had discovered a body they believed to be Lucy, which was just a very shattering moment for her dad.
Mhm.
20 minutes later, a translator for the Japanese police also contacted Tim to inform him that they had discovered these remains and that the dental records were a match, confirming this was Lucy.
Ah, shit.
And like I said earlier, Tim said, I was hopeful all the time, right through to that moment. So it was almost like now he has to finally face that she's not coming home, you know?
Right.
So Obara was brought to trial. He was charged with abduction, rape resulting in death, and the disposal of Lucy's body. He was also charged with rape resulting in the death of Karita Ridgway. Now, what is pretty tragic about this is that of his estimated 400 crimes, there was only enough evidence to charge him with 8.
Oh my god. That's only
Think
8.
about the victim, like the number. It's,
Oh my. Think of their 392 bodies out there that like still don't have closure or their families don't have closure.
well, no, so these are just the rape victims. They're not all dead.
Oh, thank God.
Karita Ridgway is the only
Oh
one
my God.
who, because a lot of them came forward and said, like, hey,
Right. No, my brain just made it worse. That's all.
oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, a lot of them, I would say her death was most likely, I mean, I don't know, but I think the theory is that
She was
he
one of the
wasn't
first deaths.
no, that, like, he wasn't trying to kill her. It was just like Karita Ridgway, where he dropped her off at the hospital, was like, "Food poisoning," because he overdosed her on chloroform. Like, I think the theory is because he had been doing this for hundreds of people, he's bringing them back, drugging them, raping them, dropping them back off. So, what they think happened is that this was an accident on his part, and he
You know
covered
what's
it up.
wild though is how many people also might have died from chloroform poisoning or something and he didn't
Yeah,
even
and that's
know.
exactly it. We don't even know. That's a good point. Like, you don't know if any of, especially if they couldn't identify the other, say, 300 people or even 100 of them, you don't know if they're okay. You don't know if they know this happened. You don't know if they, like, subconsciously are traumatized or, like,
Yeah.
outwardly traumatized. I mean, yeah, it's horrific. The number is just shocking. So, they only had enough evidence to charge him with 8 of these rapes. He received a life sentence for the 8 charges of rape and for the death of Clarita Ridgway. But on all charges involving Lucy, he was found not guilty.
What?
I know.
Why? What
I don't know. They
they
just
didn't
could
even give
not come to a conclusion on it and said there's too much doubt.
too
And
much doubt. Name a doubt. What are we talking about?
I
Doubt.
know, I know.
w- Okay.
Heartbreaking. So, in a post sentencing press conference, Tim said Lucy's life was not in vain. Lucy brought justice to Karita Ridgway and the 8 other rape victims who bravely came forward to support the case. Detectives spent several years strengthening their case and evidence, and thankfully, in 2007, they were able to file an appeal. And in 2008, O'Bara was finally found guilty of
Oh,
dismembering
thank
and
God.
abandoning Lucy's body, rendering he had been sentenced to life in prison. Now that he was found guilty of dismembering and abandoning Lucy's body, his life imprisonment is irreversible. So there's no chance of parole, I guess is what that
Okay.
probably means.
Whew. Okay. Well, okay. It came later, but I'm glad it happened.
I know. It took them years to, like, build up a case for the appeal, but they did, thankfully. So Lucy's mother, Jane, told the press, "I think justice has been done." And finally, the Blackman family had some sort of closure. And although O'Bara wouldn't be held individually responsible for every woman he hurt, which again was so many, he would never be able to hurt one again. So, there was that at least sliver of, I
Yeah.
don't know, what do you call it? A silver lining,
Mm.
sort of. So Tim said despite the grief of losing his daughter, Lucy left such an impact on her family's lives. He said, those feelings are very pure and untainted by hatred and anger and all the rest of it because I kept all that out of Lucy's memory. So he is able to almost compartmentalize that so that Lucy's memory is kept happy in his
Talk about
mind.
Father of the Year.
I was gonna say that seems like very difficult. I don't know. I'd struggle with that for sure. Um so there is a little bit of drama surrounding the family. Lucy's parents had gotten divorced several years before her disappearance, and there was a lot of tension between the parents during the investigation. And apparently, Jane got very upset when her ex-husband accepted a condolence payment. So essentially, there's this thing you're allowed in the Japanese law legal system. It's a payment called a condolence payment, and you can use this as a tool for the dependent to express remorse in hopes of getting a lighter sentence. But this money wasn't from Obara, it was from his friend from school,
Huh?
like a college friend. And this guy
Okay.
felt so guilty that he offered 100 million yen, which is $680,000, to Tim. And Tim took the money, and his ex wife was not happy about that. She called it blood money. She said, I do not like that he's accepting payments
Mm-hmm.
on behalf of this guy who murdered our daughter. But
Yeah.
then the other side of that, she called it obscene. The other side of that uh, is Tim said, I'm using this to pay off the debts while I was living in Japan for all those months and uh, support her siblings, who have so much grief and need so much healing. And also, he used some of the money to establish a trust in Lucie's name to provide crisis support for people who go missing abroad and for their families. So, at least
Okay.
something good came of
Good.
this
Yeah.
money. But again, Jane and other family members called it blood money, called it obscene, were deeply upset that Tim had accepted it. So, there's definitely some tension there. Um, there was just so much, I imagine, so much pain and grief in the wake of losing Lucie, that the tension that I assume already existed, considering they had gotten divorced relatively recently, was just like ratcheted up like
Yeah.
several
Yeah.
notches.
Totally.
So it was very difficult, obviously, for the family to move on. Unfortunately, one of Lucie's family members attempted suicide due to the
Mm.
overwhelming grief. But today, most of Lucie's family lives pretty quiet lives, pretty private. This 2023 Netflix documentary that I was talking about is very thorough, very good. But the only person who really gets involved in the documentary is Lucie's father, and he speaks about his side of the ordeal. And you do see Jane, Sophie, and Rupert, but they only show up in like press clippings from the time of the investigation. They did not participate in the
Okay.
actual making of the documentary.
Hmm.
So, in the documentary, one of the detectives on Lucie's case said that he traveled to England in 2010 to visit Lucie's grave because it had had such an impact on him, this case.
Wow.
And while he was there, he stopped to see her mom, Jane, and she made him tea, and they have a photo together. It's very sweet.
Oh.
And apparently, once a year, for about 20 years now, the detectives, a group of them, goes to the spot by the sea, that cave where they found Lucie, and they light incense and pray as a way to appease her spirit and to pray she rests in peace.
Mm.
So that is the case of Lucie Blackman.
Wow. I wanted to ask earlier, do you know if there was I think there was a Law and Order episode about this.
Oh, probably. I feel like ripped from the headlines. I feel like they take the stories. It
I
wouldn't
I th-
surprise me.
I think it was also the year, like a year after it happened. But a lot of it sounded familiar. But
Lucie Blackman, Law and Order,
it was
SVU. And I also want to say the name name of the documentary real quick. It's called Missing: The Lucie Blackman Case, and it came out this year, 2023, so it's pretty recent.
where is it? Is it on
Netflix.
Netflix? Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, God, I was really hoping in the end she was gonna have somehow survived.
I know,
But
it's really tragic. And to just uncover such a dark
well, also thank God
crime spree.
that the dad was so
I know.
vigilant about this, because they ended up finding out what happened to 400 women.
Exactly. Like, they uncovered such a dark, dark crime spree this guy was on. That would have, as we know, just gone on and on and on until he got caught.
Oh, yeah.
So really, I mean, obviously so many women were deeply traumatized when they had to watch this video. A lot of the detectives who had to watch it were deeply troubled by it. It's just very, very upsetting. So
Yeah.
again, there's nothing graphic in the documentary, but just proceed with caution. Make sure you're in the right headspace, I guess I would say.
Yeah. Wow, good storytelling, Christine.
Woofa doofa. I mean, one of these days I'll cover a happy one. Probably not.
I feel like in this amount of time, I think you've only covered maybe 3 or 4 happy stories.
Oh, and one of them was like a fake one about you.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, what was my name in that?
Oh my God, we got to remember. It was so fun. Cletus.
Stupid. All right. Well, from Cletus to the Hercene Shifter, I hope everyone has a good week.
Yes.
And we'll see you next week for another episode of Christine bumming us out and me trying my best. So
I'll be there.
And
That's
why
we
drink.